Iron Maiden's reunion album Brave New World features one of the most unusual album artworks in the band's discography, which also happens to have a couple of hidden secrets in it. So, in honor of Brave New World's 24th birthday, let's take a look at the history behind its artwork, reveal some of the hidden treasures most fans have never noticed, and then take a look at some exclusive content from Dean Karr, a man behind the camera of the iconic Brave New World photographs. Here you go. Not long after the amazing news of Bruce Dickinson's and Adrian Smith's return to Iron Maiden, and right before hitting the road with their reunion at Hunter tour, the newly reformed as a six-piece Iron Maiden gathered together to write most of the songs for what would become their 12th studio album. And since Brave New World marked the band's return to their classic lineup, it was only natural that the loyal fanbase's expectations for the upcoming record were simply mind-blowingly high, as the band faced a rather hard task to both give their loyal fanbase the sound they were known for in their golden years, and at the same time show that this reunion is not simply a petty nostalgia run, and Iron Maiden were ready to fight for their place in the updated landscape of modern metal world. And in all honesty, given all that, Iron Maiden came up with maybe the best possible title for such album, and did their best to also reflect this on the album's artwork, embracing both their legacy and presenting the new, updated version of Iron Maiden, building the foundation for the band's identity in the 21st century's brave new heavy metal world. And thus, as if to bridge that gap between the two eras, the original intention was to invite the legendary Derek Riggs, who of course is responsible for some of the most iconic Iron Maiden artworks, to work on the cover art of the album, which by then was supposed to be titled The Wicker Man. And as always, Derek provided a cover art done very much in a vein of classic Derek Riggs, although with significantly less details compared to his earlier work, depicting Eddie as a wicker man, designed, if you take a closer look, to slightly resemble a church full of people, with another Eddie face appearing in the smoke from above, the idea which the band was absolutely not a fan of. I was doing an illustration for Wicker Man. This face was in the clouds, it was in the smoke, but Wicker Man, where they burned the fellow, I designed this thing that looks a bit like a church with people inside it all being burned, but the band didn't like it. The manager liked it, but the band didn't. And the manager said he wanted to see a version every day, and I don't work like that. So they paid for the artwork, and they used the Eddie in the sky, said Derek Riggs in his memoir. In reality, Derek actually did provide a couple of more versions of his interpretation of Wicker Man, all of which actually featured just slight alterations of the original one, none of which fully satisfied the band and the management. Don't know why I feel this way. Here's the thing, with all due respect to Derek's work, I kinda have to agree with the band, as in all honesty the symbiosis of his classic painting style with the digital art was not up to par with Iron Maiden's previous work. Bear in mind, Dance of Death hasn't come out yet, so the expectations were pretty high. And so at first, after parting ways with Derek, Iron Maiden invited another legendary artist, Mark Wilkinson, whose name is of course very well known to all Iron Maiden and Judas Priest fans, and who came up with the final version of the Wicker Man artwork. Yet at the end of the day, that cover art has only been used for the first single of the record, as Iron Maiden decided to settle on a new title for their 12th studio record, and finally invited the digital artist Steve Stone to come out with a final version of the Brave New World cover. The final version of the Brave New World artwork is a combination of what Derek Riggs came up with at first and Steve Stone's depiction of a futuristic London landscape, the concept which by itself became somewhat of a bridge connecting the band's past and the future. The upper part of the artwork depicts an evil-looking Eddie in the skies gazing over the city, which was originally depicted by Derek, and which, in all honesty, Steve Stone did an amazing job at incorporating into the final version, giving him a much more sinister and evil look, which perfectly matched the atmosphere of the album. And I guess those attentive fans who are used to look for hidden secrets at all Iron Maiden covers would know that Eddie is in fact not alone in that cloud. On the left side of the artwork, we can also see a screaming face in the clouds, and just below it a head of a dragon or a monstrous lizard of some sort running away from the infamous Eddie. And now, I read a lot of different fan theories about those figures and what they're supposed to represent online, including the one stating that the upper head is rather reminiscent of Munch's painting The Scream, and that it was supposed to represent the album's connection to existentialism, as on it the band explores questions related to the meaning, purpose, and value of human existence. You know, particularly in such lines as these. And in all honesty, I really like that theory, but I'm afraid that, unfortunately, the truth is much less poetic. As pretty much any old-school horror movie fan would know, that one of the most iconic vampire horror films of the 1980s was the movie Fright Night, telling the story of a seductive vampire and a frantic teenager trying to keep his neck untouched. And if we take a look at the poster for that iconic movie, we might find a couple of familiar elements in it. Now, in all honesty, I don't know if it was supposed to be a tribute of some sort or not, but the resemblance in those is pretty disturbing.
Yes, that's true.
And just like on the previous studio album Virtual 11, Brave New World also featured the updated Iron Maiden logo, which was supposed to be more fitting with the visual aesthetics of the millennium, and which, I just have to be honest with you guys, to this very day just doesn't feel right for me and doesn't feel complete for some reason. So I'm actually really happy that on the past two albums, Iron Maiden decided to go back to their very, very recognizable original logo. The lower part of the artwork depicts a futuristic London landscape, fully created and imagined solely by Steve Stone. Well, almost. After spending hours researching this topic online, my dear friend and the author of several Iron Maiden related books, Stepan Juras, was actually able to find the original photo used by Steve for the Brave New World artwork. And by the way, if you guys have no idea who Stepan is, I really recommend you guys look him up, as he does an incredible job on everything related to Iron Maiden. But now, according to Stepan, the photo's original author was in fact the photographer Ed Pritchard, who took the shot sometime in the year 2000. And I think that pretty much everyone will agree that these photos, remove the CGI, are virtually identical, which becomes very clear looking at the position of the ships, London's Tower Bridge, and even the trees on the right side of the image. So in reality, the bottom part of the artwork was in fact a photograph, on top of which Steve included a lot, and I mean a lot, of CGI effects and buildings to depict what his imagination showed him what London might look like. Now, bear in mind that in the year 2000, Photoshop was still a pretty new thing for many, and not everyone fully understood its capabilities and what level of attention is acceptable in that brave new digital world. So yeah, despite having a lot of little details being placed on top of that original photograph, Brave New World isn't really done in the vein of another futuristic Iron Maiden artwork. And unlike on Somewhere in Time, there wasn't too much attention given to every little building on it. In addition to creating a memorable classic yet modern artwork, Iron Maiden were also faced with the task to present themselves in a new light, showing the world that the band is ready to stand the tests of their time. Iron Maiden's reunion with Bruce and Adrian came at rather turbulent times, and not only for the band but for heavy metal overall, when many fans doubted the genre which they thought peaked in the 80s had anything new up their sleeve. And this reunion, as anticipated as it may have been, could have been seen by many as an old band's attempt to capitalize on their fans' nostalgia with little to nothing new Iron Maiden could offer to them. Yet, we all know it was not like that. Brave New World was a band's statement that Iron Maiden is here to stay, and unlike many other legacy acts, they're ready to move forward and actively prove they are worthy of their place on the heavy metal Olymp with their new music, which was supposed to resonate with both their loyal fans and absolutely new generations of metalheads who would only start exploring the world of Iron Maiden with Brave New World and subsequent albums. And so in order to create the images for the Brave New World era, Iron Maiden invited one of the most cutting-edge photographers and directors of that time, Dean Karr, to come up with a proper way to portray everything the band represented in the year 2000.
Well, I was surely super happy Bruce was back with the band, and I had initially known David from friends that live in Maui and introduced me to him. He actually kind of sent the message to Smallwood and the management team to have a serious look at it for such a big reunion as this was, and convincing them to go with hot, cutting-edge, cool director, photographer guy. And I think it was appealing because I was able to do the photo shoot for Brave New World, and on the same day direct the Wicker Man music video. We did that all in one day because we had those giant those were giant weather balloons that we had filled with propane gas that the man in the word, I don't want to confuse Brave New World with Wicker Man, but I guess they go together. But
yeah,
we had the props set up, and we just I guess I had two photo assistants on set, and he would hand me the camera, and then I'd have to turn into director to be looking through the 35mm movie camera. It was a crazy day, and it rained. It rained so hard, and I remember Bruce came out of the wardrobe trailer, and he hadn't been out in a few hours, and he sunk halfway up his calf in mud. His foot. He had those fancy custom leather pants that my friend Gibran made for him, and he sunk halfway up his calf in mud.
And in my opinion, Dean did an incredible job, as no matter whether you like this album or not, those photographs and the imagery of both Brave New World and Rockin' Rio 2001 are some of the most iconic ones of the 21st century version of Iron Maiden.
Here's the aisle where the band's, those are weather balloons that were all synced with the pyro, because they were all filled with propane. Mm-hmm. And the actor in the video ran down the middle of the balloons, and they were all about 9 feet tall, but they were all synced and they exploded. The left and right ones would explode all the way down the aisle. It was perfect. It went up perfectly. It pays to have a good pyro technician.
Brave New World is a unique artwork in the Iron Maiden discography. It is an artwork which features both the band's old-school elements from the 1980s and something absolutely unique and new that the band has never used before. It is somewhat of a Frankenstein, and Frankenstein created from different bits and pieces and even weird new technologies which in no way are supposed to be able to work together, but somehow they did. And this is what is so great about it, because it was actually perfectly able to capture what was Iron Maiden going through as a band at that period of time. When Iron Maiden announced that Bruce Dickinson and Adrian Smith would return to the band, and that from now on Iron Maiden will continue as a six-piece with not one or two, but 3 guitarists on stage, many simply could not comprehend how it could possibly work, but it somehow did. And just like that, this Brave New World artwork was actually able to help the band bridge the gap from their golden age to this new era of Iron Maiden. An era in which Iron Maiden would start exploring new technologies and new approaches. An era in which Iron Maiden, and actually all of us, would explore weird CGIs, trying to find the proper use for all of it in this brave new heavy metal world. So yes, in my opinion, despite it might not be the most iconic of the Iron Maiden artworks, simply because of the fact that it has to be compared to some masterpieces of the past, Brave New World's cover artwork and its imagery was still the best possible way to open the gates into the new era of one of the greatest heavy metal bands on the planet. And what do you guys personally think about it? Please let us know in the comments. As always, thank you so much for watching the short video, guys, and we will prevail. Slava Ukraini!